Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to a News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. Trinidad and Tobago lifts its travel ban on Nigeria and commits funding in the amount of $100,000 to the United Nations to battle the spread of the Ebola virus. And a smooth flow of traffic for drivers coming out of Debe from south side, while facilitating a smooth flow from the city of San Fernando coming from the west as critical segment of the Point Fortin Highway is opened. In a Diwali message to the nation, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa calls on citizens to work and shine together to dispel all forms of darkness within the country. Thank you for joining us. Top of the news. As the global Ebola situation changes, Trinidad and Tobago is adapting to suit. This is why the government has decided to lift the travel ban on persons from Nigeria and coordinate with the United Nations to identify the fight against Ebola.
Speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing, Health Minister Dr. The Honorable Fuad Khan reveals the World Health Organization has now declared Nigeria Ebola-free. He says based on this, the government has decided to rethink its approach on Nigerian nationals visiting Trinidad and Tobago.
Nigeria has been declared by the World Health Organization Ebola-free. At Cabinet today, discussions took place based on the new information from the World Health Organization, and it has been agreed, the Honorable Prime Minister as well as the Cabinet have agreed that based on the information of the World Health Organization and also based on information of the stringent screening methods that are occurring in international countries prior to embarkation and also exit by passengers, Trinidad and Tobago, the Cabinet has decided to lift the ban on the Federal Republic of Nigeria with immediate effect.
Minister Khan adds that the government is strengthening its resolve in tackling the virus and is now coordinating with the United Nations in its efforts against the virus. He explains the Cabinet has taken a decision to commit funds to the United Nations battle against the global Ebola outbreak.
Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, on the advice of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, agreed that Trinidad and Tobago will make a contribution of $100,000 to the United Nations Ebola Response Multi-Partner Fund to support the United Nations effort and activities to provide this global platform for the global control of Ebola outbreak.
Minister Khan says the contribution will go a long way to fighting the spread of the virus on an international level and explains how the contribution to the UN's Global Ebola Response Fund will be spent.
Stopping the outbreak at source, treating of infected persons in those countries that are infected, ensuring the provision of essential services to those countries, preserving stability and prevented outbreaks in countries currently unaffected. This multi-partner trust fund, started by United Nations Secretary General in September 2014, is a fund where countries who are willing to support the initiatives in West Africa, because those countries have fragile health systems and truly they are having a problem in, as I say, containing this disorder.
It is expected that the battle against the deadly virus will also intensify throughout the Caribbean region. Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa, speaking at Tuesday's opening of the Golconda interchange, says there are plans for leaders of CARICOM countries to meet before the end of next week to discuss ways to overcome the threats and challenges posed by the Ebola virus. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
A critical segment of the Highway to Point Fortin was officially opened to the public on Tuesday, signaling the end of traffic for persons exiting the Southland. Now, officials on hand for the opening of the Golconda interchange described the new infrastructure as a gateway to the Southland.
One step closer to making the commute in and out of the Southland less stressful, as the interchange at the start of the new highway opened its roadways officially to the public. The ring road will provide smooth flow of traffic for drivers coming out of Debe from the south side, while it will also facilitate vehicles flowing from the city of San Fernando, coming from the west, and all proceeding northbound. Minister in the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, Stacey Roopnarine, who is also MP for the Oropouche West District, an area that will benefit from the highway, sought to take the opportunity to thank citizens cooperating in getting this part of the highway completed.
Yes, there is always a price for progress, but as a responsible government, we have to ensure that that price is well managed. And that is why we have taken a very soft approach in the process of relocation and land acquisition. I want to make it clear that this government, unlike previous regimes, have put no one out on the streets as a result of this highway, perhaps one of the largest infrastructure projects in this country.
She underscored the need for the construction of this leg of the highway project by emphasizing the plight faced by persons trying to get in and out of Debe on a daily basis.
I once again invite you to come down to Debe and see the plight that people face here on a daily basis. There are times, if you on a Sunday evening, you're trying to get from Pinal to Debe to buy doubles, you will not believe, from Kuchawan Trace to Debe Junction, sometimes takes you something like 30-40 minutes. What should really be a 5-minute drive. And that is a Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. So that there is no question of the need for this segment.
However, it was NIDCO chairman Dr. Carson Charles who gave the assurance that works were moving speedily ahead to ensure another leg of the highway is completed before year's end.
We are about 35% complete on the project, the overall highway project, and accelerating rapidly. And apart from the provisions for advance payment, our expenditure on the project is also approximately the same figure. So we are working in tandem, spending money for product as we go. We look forward to opening also very soon, over the next 3 months or so, some major sections of roadway. From St. Mary's Junction at Oropouche, we are working our way across to Mondesi, and down to Delay Road, and down to Grant Road in Rusilac. And this segment of road, if we continue to get some decent weather for construction purposes, this segment of road will be available to the public in about 3 months' time, approximately. We are working very hard at it.
Minister Dr. Rudolph Munilal, MP for Oropouche East, highlighted the impact such a highway will have on communities in the Southland by removing hurdles that once held them from development.
Today, we meet at this historic site, the gateway to the southern peninsula. And at this historic site, we undo decades of colonial rule. We undo the decades of discrimination that has been festered upon us by our colonial powers. In the colonial times, they built all their transportation networks, whether it's highway or railway. They were only built from the mines to the port because the central objective, economic objective of the colonial administration, mines to the port. Rails and highways and roads never passed through villages, never passed through communities, because the objective was not social and sustainable development. It was extracting from the plantation to the port. Today, the government led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar is undoing that horrible colonial legacy by putting the highway and the roads and the networks through the villages, through the towns, through the communities, and then to the port.
When completed, the highway will consist of 47 kilometers of 4-lane dual carriageway and 2.5 kilometers of 2-lane roadway that will connect the city of San Fernando and the southern towns of Debe, Pinal, Siparia, Faizabad, Labre, and Point Fortin. Kimberly Ram-Calawan, News 4.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar is underscoring the need for the highway to Point Fortin and called for citizens to understand that with any progress, sacrifices must be made. She was speaking during the opening of the Golconda interchange segment of the highway.
It's the talk of the town, the extension of the Solomon Hochoy Highway into Point Fortin. And while many have made sacrifices to allow for its construction, what they don't know is that state agencies have also had to make important decisions to facilitate the new passageway into the Southland. In opening the Golconda interchange, the point where old and new roadways merge, Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, while thanking those who paved the way for its happening, also listed the companies which have had to redirect their projects for the construction of the Point Fortin Highway.
Over 600 local firms have been supplying goods and services to the main contractor, OAS. Challenges we faced many. This is a very complex project, perhaps one of the largest of its kind in our country, which has had its fair share of challenges, as is expected with projects like these. I'll give you some examples. The project involved the capping of oil wells. In the Guapo area alone, some 39 wells have been capped to facilitate construction. It involves the removal of pipelines belonging to Petrotrin. Almost 91,000 feet of lines, these are pipelines of Petrotrin, oil lines, must be relocated. It involves technology to build a highway across the major gas lines belonging to BP and NGC, and to do so as to facilitate ease in repairs to those segments of the gas lines should it become necessary.
She adds that a project will benefit this part of Trinidad and Tobago both socially and financially.
The completion of this highway will bring tremendous economic and social gains to the Southwest Peninsula. You have seen the tremendous development in the Northwest Peninsula, and I see no reason why the Southwest Peninsula should not also benefit from development. This area has been one of the neglected areas of our country in terms of development. Part of it has to do with the time it takes to get from San Fernando to Point Fortin. With this highway, government's thrust to bring more industries as well as tourism projects to this area will gain momentum. The quality of life as a whole is destined to be improved as a result of this project. A new wave of economic activity will be initiated with tremendous gains for persons in the areas where the highway passes. With the construction, the multiplier effect in terms of economic activities will take place.
And ensuring that the social welfare of the public is catered for in these regions, the Prime Minister announced that plans to construct new facilities that will promote community living will take place in time to come.
As I understand it, the process of acquisition is being achieved through private treaty negotiations, and no one has been forced out of their homes. The process may have taken a bit longer, but it is the preferred way of this government. Resorting to the Commission of Valuations will always be a last resort. In addition, as you are probably aware, rental accommodation for those whose properties have been acquired is being provided for at least 6 months so that we will have an easy transition. The lands at Picton and Pittenmore are fully developed residential lots with provision for all amenities. Further to this, lands have been reserved for social and cultural purposes, including recreation grounds, schools, and religious institutions.
It's anticipated that another leg of the highway will be completed and open to the public in the coming months. The highway has been described as one of the largest and most complex infrastructural development that has ever been undertaken in the country's recent history. Kimberly Ram-Kalawan, News 4.
We'll take a break. You're watching News 4. Thank you for staying with us. The Ministry of Community Development, through the Export Centres Company Limited, is ensuring that the local handicraft industry has the resources necessary to be regionally and internationally recognized. Now, recent efforts were brought to the fore at a public display of indigenous craft techniques.
The Export Centres Company Limited, which is under the purview of the Ministry of Community Development, was established on July 3, 1996, with the hope of facilitating economic growth, job creation, competitiveness, diversification and innovation, as well as poverty reduction and human capital development. In keeping with the mandate to train persons to become micro-entrepreneurs capable of producing and selling high-quality handicraft items, the ECCL offered a preparatory program in craft techniques and designs. The company recently hosted its first public display of indigenous craft techniques in Trinidad and Tobago. The event was designed as a component of the preparatory program in craft techniques and designs and required program participants, which consisted of ECCL employees, to conduct research on 5 types of craft in Trinidad and Tobago. This research was formalized into screen presentations representing techniques and design in wire bending, pottery, calabash and bitumen craft. In addressing participants, Minister of Community Development, the Honourable Winston Peters, commended the management and staff of ECCL for their efforts in developing the handicraft industry in Trinidad and Tobago.
When one is so impressed by what you see, it's only fitting that you say something. And being an artist myself, I feel very, very happy this morning to see all that is happening here. And I too want to join with Mr. Narayan Singh in thanking all the persons who have put all of this together and who has tirelessly worked to ensure that it is a success. I more than anything else want to thank the export companies, because I've seen during the time that I am here, I am not taking any credit for it, but I'm giving the credit to the board and to the management for actually doing something with export companies that it was set out to really do. And what is that? To ensure that the artisans of Trinidad and Tobago get the knowledge that they need and the help that they need in the ways that they can perpetuate and take their arts further.
The Honourable Minister further reiterated his ministry's and government support for the development of local handicraft and artisans, and suggested that the creation of outlets for produced handicrafts be implemented.
All these things that we're doing here, we must have a store. We must have a store where people can actually come on a daily basis, like how we go to any other store, and purchase these things, because we cannot be training people to do these things, make these things, and then they have nothing to do. A lot of them, when they finish, they go and look for 10 days, or they go and look to work with CPEP or something like that. You must, first of all, try to form yourselves into, I don't want to use cooperatives because it's such a bastardized word as far as I am concerned, with no real result, but form yourselves into tangible, professional business groups. And find the resources, because the government has resources for things like this. If only you know exactly how to do it, and export companies can show you how to do it. And find a place, if you cannot do this for yourself, find a place, a small place. You could find a little place like somewhere like in here, and bring all your art. And having done all of that, or not doing that at all, what I want us to do as a government and as a ministry is to own a store where all these things can be found.
According to the minister, this would create and generate income, as the government can purchase these items from producers in order to sell them internationally. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Switching gears now onto some sport news. Trinidad and Tobago Soca Princesses have secured a place in the semi-final round, finishing their Group A program with 6 points. They now advance to the knockout round, where they met Costa Rica in Pennsylvania on Friday for a spot in both the CONCACAF Final and the World Cup. Sport journalist Wayne Cunningham and videographer Nicholson Paul are traveling with the women's team. On their way to Philadelphia, Team Trinidad and Tobago made a pit stop at 1708 Massachusetts Avenue, Washington, D.C.
News 4 Sports at the 2014 CONCACAF Women's Championship is brought to you by the Ministry of Sport, Sport for All, Sport for Life, and the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago.
En route from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia for the semi-final of the CONCACAF Women's Championship, Team Trinidad and Tobago made a slight detour. At the request of His Excellency Dr. Neil Parsons, Ambassador to the United States, Mexico, and the OAS. During the visit, some of the players asked, "What do you do here at the embassy?" The ambassador was eager to explain.
And what we do here at the embassy is probably 3 or 4 different things. You heard immigration, you heard security, you heard trade, etc. We have about 4 or 5 functions within these 2 buildings. One, we look after the diplomatic relations between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States, which is very important for us. Our major trading partner, together with CARICOM, is the U.S. We still sell a lot of gas to the U.S. We still trade a lot with the U.S., specialty chemicals, food and beverage, exotics. There's a lot of trade going on between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States. So it's important that this office maintains those relations and strengthens them over time. We also here clearly look after your interests, the diaspora. So we have consular services. So when passports are expiring, passports have expired, other nationals wanted to come to Trinidad, may wish for visas to enter. It's issued or facilitated through our offices here in terms of the consular services.
Once again, Ambassador Parsons expressed his pride for Warrior Women Football.
And let me also thank all of you ladies. I was a bit taken aback when I saw that US. I saw you guys on TV. I tuned into the game. I was very, very much proud and humbled to be from Trinidad and Tobago when I saw the heart and soul in which you played. Forget the result. The result means nothing. A goal is a goal. I rather look at the performance and the feel than the outcome of the game, depending on the circumstances. If it's a final or not, of course, it makes a difference. But I think your performance was noteworthy and very, very, very much representative of a team effort. And I saw no individual idiosyncrasies that led me to believe that there's no cohesion in this team.
I'm Wayne Cunningham at the CONCACAF Women's Championship 2014 in Washington, D.C. for News 4 Sports.
News 4 Sports at the 2014 CONCACAF Women's Championship is brought to you by the Ministry of Sport, Sport for All, Sport for Life, and the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago.
We'll take a break. More news when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. In a Diwali message to the nation, the Prime Minister is calling on citizens to work and shine together to dispel all forms of darkness within the country. This comes one day ahead of Diwali 2014.
On behalf of the people and government, Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar has extended to the Hindu community Shubh Diwali on the occasion of Diwali 2014. In her Diwali message, the Prime Minister asked that Mother Lakshmi shower the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago with her blessings of prosperity, beauty, grace and wisdom. She noted that each year during the festival of Diwali, several thousand diyas are lit to symbolize the triumph of light over darkness and truth over ignorance and fear. To Hindu practitioners, the Prime Minister says the flame of the diya also reflects the flame which resides deep in one's heart and must also be tended to with great care. The glow from that inner flame is said to shine within and radiates outward as truth, compassion, forgiveness and love. The celebration of Diwali, like that of other religious observances, affords us an opportunity to stop, look within and reconnect to our divine nature, which is one of love, unity and peace, according to the Prime Minister. However, for many of us today, she says, the realities and challenges of modern living have made us self-absorbed and selfish, refusing to understand and accept the views of others. The Prime Minister made a passionate call to citizens to not allow themselves and the country to be overtaken by the darkness of selfishness, injustice, pride and intolerance, nor to allow the darkness of crime, disease and poverty to impede the development of this remarkable country. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar reaffirmed her government's continued efforts to do all that is necessary and all that is within its power to combat any and every threat to national security and the health and well-being of citizens. She said just as the lights of the diya brighten the night sky, so too each citizen as individuals and collectively in families, communities, within organizations, in the workplace and in the various places of worship must work and shine together to dispel all forms of darkness within the country. The Prime Minister noted that darkness cannot exist where there is light. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
And that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. Remember, you can view a repeat of our newscast weekdays at 6 a.m. and feel free to visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/OurTV4. Also be sure to visit our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/TheGISLTD. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you so much for watching and, of course, have a happy Diwali.